Hey guys, today we're gonna go over some woodworking tools that aren't really made for woodworking, but I find them really useful in the shop, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing I wanna talk about is these pencils. I picked them up at the dollar store for all four for $1, so they're very reasonable as far as budget goes, and I like the way that they add some contrast to the darker woods, as well as add the ability for me to lay out joints and stuff, so let's check them out. As you can see on this walnut here, green leaves a nice solid dark line, our red is nice as well. Yellow is a little bit light on walnut, but it looks lighter on camera than it is in person. And orange is solid as well. One other one that's more of a traditional one that you see in the shop is this Pica pencils. This one's really great for working on walnut. If I want to lay out rough layout lines or rough cut lines, I use the Pica. It's super clear when I'm laying out my thicknesses as well as my orientations as to where things need to go and where parts are going to end up being. Another great way to use these is when you're laying out your joinery and you need to know where your different parts go for assembly. You can easily just lay out your triangles or lay out your marks, and then when you're in the middle of a glue up putting parts together, you don't have to worry about, the stress of making sure that one joint goes to the correct spot or that you're in the wrong spot. Those go together nice and easily. So again, they're not traditionally used for woodworking, but they work really great in the shop. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about are these push blocks. I got a lot of questions and a lot of messages about them after the shop tour. Again, these are floats for doing flooring from the big box store. They're about $7 each, so $14 for some nice push blocks. I keep these at my joiner, but they'll obviously work really well at the table saw as well as your router tables. When you're pushing through with these guys, it's just like any other push block. You push through and leave all of your pressure on the outfeed table. The big difference between these and the guys that come with the joiner is that because it's a harder rubber, they don't really have the grip that these floats do. When it comes to the texture on the two, these ones have like this real spongy grab. These ones are a little stiffer and a little smoother. So definitely check these out. I think they're a nice little addition to the shop and they won't break the bank. Next, I want to talk about tape. Now, I use a ton of different tapes in the shop. You've probably seen me go to my go-to, which is the blue tape. I really like blue tape in the shop because it has so many different uses. This little holder's great too. You don't have to worry about like ripping off a piece and then like fighting with the little end and all that kind of stuff. So I use blue tape to label different parts in the shop, and then it's easy as putting it on and throwing a Sharpie on. The other thing I like to do is when I'm doing edge treatments, if there's an edge that I don't want to hit on the router table, I'll just take a piece of tape, put it over that edge, and then I know this is the edge I stay away from and that this is my next edge that I'm going to use on the router table. It's a little reminder and helps me out to make sure I'm not rounding over or chamfering the wrong end. The other one is double stick tape. This stuff's great for attaching templates as well as attaching boards to the CNC to make sure they don't move around. You've seen me use this in the shop a ton. Stick on your template, go to the router table, do whatever you need, and then pop it off. Now, popping it off is kind of its own endeavor sometimes, but this stuff is invaluable in the shop. Obviously, you could use CA glue and blue tape as an alternative to double stick tape, but if you're in a bind and you're trying to work quickly, double stick tape is definitely my way to go. You've seen me use tuck tape on projects in the past. I use it for taping up epoxy work, or you probably just saw me use it on the bent laminations to tape off the forms. It is a little bit more difficult to come off than packing tape, so just be mindful of that. It can leave some red residue. Don't put it onto a finished piece or anything like that. All right, so next up is duct tape or gaff tape. This is actually duct tape, but anyway, I use this stuff in the shop for taping off dust collection when I have like a blowout or something weird's going on. Duct tape's always good to grab for. Let me know what your favorite uses for duct tape are in the shop down in the comments though. Finally, I have some frog tape here. If I have different parts that are really similar to one another, I might use a combination of blue tape and frog tape just to let me know that, hey, this part matches up with this part here, and I don't get confused when I'm laying things out or marking them out. It's just a nice little reminder, similar again to the pencils that we used earlier. All right, so next up, let's talk about glue bottles. Now, I go back and forth between this bottle, the regular standard bottle. There's a bunch of different options out there. I do like these little sriracha bottles. Once I got some glue, could also use some different types of glues and just reuse the bottles. But once you got it in there, the cool thing about these sriracha bottles in particular is that they have a really, really thin cap. Anytime when I'm working on delicate work, or if I really want to get a fine bead of glue in, the sriracha bottle is my go-to. As you can see, I'm not oversaturating my joints with glue. I don't have a ton of cleanup to do afterwards. You obviously get to enjoy the sriracha as well. So there you go. Cleaning this off brings up to another good point. Get yourself a nice spray bottle. They work great in the shop for cleaning up glue squeeze out, applying some spray finishes, or some water-based stains, anything like that. A nice spray bottle will definitely make your life easier. Next up, I got some CA glues. Now, CA glues go a long way in the shop. I have a bunch of different types here, thicknesses and colors. You've probably seen me use them in the shop on build videos. So let's say that you were working on a piece and you got this chip out, right? And it's a big problem. You don't want to lose this corner. You first apply a little bit of the activator and use some thin, just along that line there. We're gonna push that down and grab our trusty old blue tape, push that piece right back on. So it's been a few minutes. Let's peel off our tape, which is nice and stuck now. And give this a quick sanding. There you go. Now, this one's pretty excessive, but I'll give you the idea. So you just spray in a little bit of activator, drop in your CA glue, spray your activator again, let it harden, and then apply a couple of different layers as needed, sand it back, and you'll have a nice crack-free knot. And if you want to check these guys out, I have a link down in the description with the discount code. While we're on the topic of glues, let's talk about spray adhesive. So this stuff's great for adhering templates to any of your work pieces. So if you're making a template and you need to cut some curves out of the bandsaw, let's say, any templates that maybe you've bought off timberbiscuitwoodworks.com, you can apply them with spray adhesive. Just make sure you're using a backing, otherwise your stuff gets real sticky and gets all over the place. Apply your spray adhesive, give it a couple seconds to set up, then apply it to your plywood or your work piece, your template material, and you can head off over to the bandsaw. And while we're at the bandsaw, it's pretty dark over here, so another cool little tool, or not a tool, are these clip-on lights. These things come in handy. You can use them at the bandsaw. I also like to set these up and clip them up when I'm taking photos of my work or, process photos. These are a nice little way to add a little bit of light to your photographs. Once you're done with your cutting and, getting it back and sanding to that line, you can just peel this right off and give it a quick sanding. Just remove any stickiness that are left on your template and you're good to go. So our next unspoken hero of the shop is an iron. Irons are great for getting out dents in work pieces. So let me show you how we do that now. Let's say I was working and I was assembling something and accidentally put a nice little dent in my workpiece. What you wanna do is just take a nice damp rag or damp towel, put it over that dent and take your iron. I have mine set on close to the highest setting. I'm gonna leave it over top of the dent for approximately 15 seconds, 10 seconds. We're gonna come back and check. And as you can see, because I've added some moisture to the wood, that dent is completely gone. The next time you got a dent in a workpiece, try out an iron. It doesn't have to be a dedicated iron for the shop. It can definitely be any household iron, but it works really well. All right, guys, so that's about 9.5 different things that you can use in the shop that are tools that aren't traditional woodworking tools. So if you enjoyed this video, check out this video next, subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and I'll see you next time.